Obinna had everything: money, power, respect. But tonight, none of it matters, because tonight he is standing here, ready to make a choice. A choice that no one, not his family, not his friends, not even his enemies, ever thought he would make. A choice that will leave the whole city in shock. But here's the thing. You think you know how this story will end. You don't. Because what happens next, no one, not even Obinna, ever saw it coming. Stay with me. Because by the time this is over, you won't believe what you just heard. Tell us where you are watching from in the comments section below. Obinna was a man of power. His name carried weight in the business world. At just 38, he owned real estate across the city, drove luxury cars, and had more money than he could ever spend. To outsiders, he was the definition of success. But at home, in the silence of his mansion, he was just a man drowning in loneliness. No woman stayed with him. His first wife, Adana, was beautiful and intelligent. They had a lavish wedding that made headlines. On their honeymoon in Paris, everything seemed perfect. But on their first night together, something happened. Or rather, nothing happened. Obinna tried. He wanted to, more than anything, but his body failed him. Adana waited. She whispered words of comfort, but as the nights passed and nothing changed, her patience ran out. 3 weeks later, she packed her bags. At the door, she turned to him with a look that would haunt him forever. "You are not the man I thought you were," she said. Obinna felt something inside him shatter. At first, the gossip was subtle. Whispers in high-end restaurants, side glances at parties. But soon, it grew. Obinna is rich, but his bed is cold. What's the use of all that money if he can't keep a woman? The rumors spread like wildfire. He heard the laughter behind his back. Even his business associates smirked when they shook his hand. He refused to accept it. Maybe it was just bad luck, he told himself. So he married again. This time it was Nkichi, a kind, soft-spoken woman who loved him for his heart, not his wealth. But on their wedding night, the same nightmare repeated. By morning, she had already made her decision. Obinna woke up to find an empty bed and a note on the nightstand. "I'm sorry, I can't do this." The laughter in the city grew louder. He became a walking meme. Internet blogs had a field day with his misfortune. The pain was unbearable. Obinna refused to accept his fate. He visited doctors, specialists, therapists. He took pills, tried meditation, followed every medical advice given. Nothing worked. Then he turned to the spiritual. He met herbalists who made him drink bitter potions. "This will give you the strength of a lion," one said. That night, he invited a woman over. He felt strong, confident. But as soon as she touched him, the strength vanished. Another healer gave him a charm. "Tie this around your waist before you sleep," he said. Still, nothing. He fasted for 7 days. He bathed in the ocean at midnight. He traveled to distant places, seeking answers. But no matter what he did, the result was always the same. And with each failure, his shame deepened. Obinna withdrew from the world. He stopped going to events, stopped answering calls. Alone in his penthouse, he stared at the city below, drowning in self-loathing. Then one night, he climbed to the rooftop. "Maybe it's better this way," he whispered. The city lights flickered below. The wind howled. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. But before he could jump, a hand grabbed his wrist. His mother. Tears streamed down her face. "My son, please," she pleaded. "Don't leave us." His father stepped forward, voice firm. "We have found you a wife. She is different. She understands." Obinna stared at them. He had no hope left, but he had nothing else to lose. "Fine," he said. Her name was Chimamanda. She was different from the others. She did not laugh at him. She did not mock him. She did not leave. "I will stay with you," she said. Obinna did not believe her at first, but days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, and Chimamanda remained by his side. For the first time in years, he felt at peace. Then one evening, Chimamanda took his hands in hers. She smiled. "I am pregnant, Obinna." Obinna froze. His heart pounded in his chest. "You are carrying my child?" She nodded. His hands trembled. He didn't know what to say. For the first time in his life, he felt whole. The world seemed to shift. The whispers in the city stopped. The laughter faded. Obinna walked through the streets with his head held high. He had won. He had a wife. He had a child on the way. Life was finally perfect. Or so he thought. At first, nothing seemed wrong. But then, little things started to change. Chimamanda had always loved to talk. Now she barely spoke when Obinna was around. Some nights she stared out the window for hours, lost in thought. "Is something wrong?" Obinna asked her one evening. She turned to him quickly, almost too quickly. "No, my love, everything is perfect." Her smile was bright, but her eyes looked tired. Then came the strange trips. "I need to visit my aunt," she told him one morning, packing a small bag. "But you never mentioned an aunt before," Obinna said, frowning. She laughed softly. "Oh, she lives far away. I did not think you needed to know." She was gone the whole day. When she returned, her dress smelled of a scent Obinna didn't recognize. "Did you enjoy your visit?" he asked. "Yes," she said, but she didn't meet his eyes. He didn't question it. He should have. The shadows in the night, then came the phone calls. Late at night, long after Obinna had gone to bed, he would hear a soft voice in the living room. One night, he got up and walked toward the sound. Chimamanda sat on the couch, holding a small phone he had never seen before. "I have to be careful," she whispered. "He must never find out." Obinna's heart skipped. "Chimamanda?" he called out. She gasped, quickly ending the call. "Who were you talking to?" She turned, forcing a smile. "My cousin. She is having problems in her marriage." Obinna nodded slowly. "I see." He didn't ask any more questions. He should have, because soon the truth would come crashing down in the worst way possible, and Obinna would never see it coming. The night was quiet, too quiet. Obinna walked through his big house, his mind full of thoughts. His life had been strange. First, every wife he married left him. Then Chimamanda came. She stayed. She even gave him a child. But something still didn't feel right. As he passed the guest house, he heard voices. He stopped. Soft whispers. He stepped closer. "We have to be careful," a voice said. "He must never find out," another voice replied. Obinna's heart started to beat fast. He placed his hand on the door. Slowly, he pushed it open. And then, he saw it. Chimamanda, his wife, in the arms of his personal driver. For a moment, the whole world stopped. Obinna could hear his own heartbeat, loud and strong. His hands felt cold. His legs felt weak. "No." The word barely came out. Chimamanda turned. Her face turned white. "Obinna, please." But Obinna couldn't hear her. His mind was racing. The pregnancy, the way she always looked away when he spoke, the way she had changed so suddenly. Everything made sense now. Is he the real father of my child? His voice was shaking. Chimamanda fell to her knees. Tears ran down her face. "Forgive me," she cried. The driver took one step back, then another. Then he turned and ran. But Obinna's hand had already grabbed something from the table, a knife. His vision blurred. His blood felt hot. His heart pounded. Before he could think, before he could stop himself, a scream filled the air. A terrible, painful scream. Blood splashed onto the white floor. Chimamanda screamed louder. Obinna stood there, breathing hard. His hands shook. The pain in his chest was worse than anything he had ever felt before. He turned his head and saw something. A mirror. And in the mirror, he didn't see the strong, powerful man he once was. He saw a broken man. A man who had lost everything. Slowly, he lifted the knife. His breath was heavy, his hands weak, one final breath. Then, he turned the knife on himself. A sharp pain, a gasp, and then silence. Only Chimamanda's cries filled the air. They buried Obinna beneath the city's oldest tree. His name was erased from conversations. His story was forgotten. But on quiet nights, when the wind moves through the buildings, some say they can still hear his cries. If this story moved you, like, share, and comment. What would you have done if you were Obinna?